Okay, so hello everyone. I think everyone's in. Welcome. It's really nice to see so many people, actually, more than I was expecting, admittedly. And yeah, and to see some of my podcast guests as well. Thank you for coming. Um, Hi, Katie. Um, my name's Annie Muir, if you don't know me, and I am the producer and host of a new podcast called Time for One Poem, aimed at complete beginners to poetry. So this evening, I'm not gonna take up too much of your time. I'm gonna tell you a bit about myself and why I made the podcast, and then I'm gonna introduce some really exciting poets to do some readings for you who are also guests on the podcast. So I decided to make this podcast because I really like poetry. And I think my poetry journey is actually quite similar to a lot of people's in that I really liked it when I was a child. And then in school, when we started doing it when I was a teenager, um, although I did like it, it started to be a bit more um, about ticking boxes, which I didn't really like looking for metaphors or, the rhyme scheme, which kind of wasn't as fun for me, or it sort of took away from it. Anyway, I clearly rekindled my love of poetry because I'm here now doing this. And that was because at university, I had some really good teachers who genuinely really loved poetry and were so enthusiastic about it. And that is my hope for the podcast, is that when I started Time for One Poem as well, which was just handing out poems on the street, I was just hoping that someone would read the poem outside of that context of school and see if they liked it. And that's the same with the podcast. I'm not expecting everyone to like every single poem that they hear on the podcast, but if you like even one of the 12 poems, then I'll be happy. Okay, great. Shall we hear some poems? Some reason I can just see Eleanor. I want to see everyone. Okay, great. It's going to be a bit like poetry speed dating. So you're going to hear each poet's going to introduce themselves and read some poems. And if you like what you hear, you can go and find their book in the library, or you can look them up online. And the poets reading tonight are Wai Keung, Nia Davies, Theresa Muñoz, Rowan McCabe, and Boyega Odubanjo. And before I introduce the first poet, I just want to say a quick word about Callie Gardner. Callie was one of the poets I interviewed for the podcast, who sadly passed away in the summer, which was a real shock. But I had a really great conversation with Callie in our interview. And one of the things they said I really liked that I wanted to share with you now. You can also hear it in the podcast. But they said that they were carrying around loads of books, and they suddenly decided to get rid of loads of books, all the ones that they could understand. So they wanted to keep only the books that they couldn't understand. So they got rid of all these books and they kept the ones they couldn't understand, because then you're getting your money's worth, because you can keep reading them again and again and again and maybe never understand it. And I really liked that, because I think that's one of the common misconceptions of poetry, is that there's always something to get. Whereas I don't think there is always something to get. Sometimes you just read a poem to like, it just makes you laugh, or it makes you think, or something like that. And all the poets that you're about to hear are poets whose books or pamphlets or poems I've carried around with me from place to place, to different flats, or in my mom's attic, or just in my head. And I'm excited to share them with you all. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Sean to unmute and introduce himself and read a poem for us. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you so much, Annie. And yes, hello, everyone. It's great to be here. I'm Sean Wai Keung, based in Glasgow. And I'm going to do a poem from my book, Sifan Glasgow, which is available through Verve Poetry Press. This is one that I don't perform very much, but I hope you enjoy it. It's called Yabba Dabba Doo. Your tombstone is simpler than the other Chinese ones in that Anglican cemetery. No fancy vertical calligraphy to go alongside the English, detailing age of death or words like beloved. A photographic inlay depicting you as you were in your 70s, a couple decades ago now, but still living. Just down the road in your old house near Asda, around the time when I was still small enough to sit with you on your chair with the TV on loud, watching Fred Flintstone slide down a diplodocus tail, break into a huge smile, shout his catchphrase, which we would always join in with, Yabba Dabba Doo. I had never heard you speak English like that before. How did you do it? Sometimes I wonder how much of the TV we watched back then you really understood and how much of it was just you copying the sounds that I reacted to the most. But does it matter? We laughed so much that your fake teeth fell out and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. You were buried with them, I was told, just in case you would need them in the next world. Eventually in the cemetery, it's my turn to pay my respects, and I get told to light 3 incense sticks, then bow 3 times while saying a prayer. And as I do my bows, I don't feel like I have enough Chinese in my vocabulary to say the prayer properly. But instead, it's a different word that forms in my mind. Thank you all very much. Peace and love.
Thanks, Sean. That was amazing. So next, I'm going to invite Nia Davies to introduce herself and share us a poem or two. Welcome, Nia.
Hello, I'm Nia Davies, and I'm a poet based in Abertawe, Swansea, Wales, Cymru. And this poem I'm going to read is from my book All Fours, which came out from Blood Axe in 2017. So it's called You Will Never Guess My Name. Call me Javelin, a mannequin for spears. Call me Harriet if you like. I am scissor reel, a jar of pickles. Call me Andrew Happenstance, lovely Xerox, lovely evaporation. My biggest concern is this here riddle, told on the cusp by a makeover guru such as myself. Call me Evermore, Grecian burn, leaf o' grass. Categorise me under Peckham, under Pazar Tezzy, the day after market. Vasilisa's skull stick. Stand in the throne hall and say my name, Miss Never Again, Miss Happy Harpy, nay Julia. Call me Mythic. I'm a toss-up between project and ongoing. I'm nil by gusset. I am tallboy, poppy or dye, seaweed or dye, Saint-Tropez. It was a place once and I called it home. Soft nuts, soft gusset, soft mushroom collar with a triple pleat. Call me fuckwit. Fuck all of it. Categorise my role alongside soup kitchen, milkweed, why? Flower market, why? Testes, why? Does everything pointy have to be phallic? My fame runs and you'll drum it into your drummed in my name as it is. Remember it.
Thanks, Nia. That was amazing too. Next up, we've got Theresa, going to introduce herself and read a poem or two for us.
Thanks, Annie. Yeah, I'm Theresa. I'm a poet based in Edinburgh. I'm from Vancouver. Good place to be. I'm just going to read two really short poems. One's from my collection called Settle, and it's called Delete Where Appropriate. If only we had a record of everything we ever said. A silver typewriter that clicked and published our words and sighs as they evaporated. If only we had a transcript of our bad years, our better ones. A list of criticisms spat across the kitchen, a register of kind phrases uttered before bed or in the car, my hand on your thigh in the melting dark. If only we had a database, a spreadsheet, we could search the terms of our agreement had we bothered to write one. Had we been honest about ourselves, our wishes and failings, perhaps I wouldn't be on the bottom stair, eyes pressed into my knees, conjuring looping screeds of ivory paper that I could amend, delete where appropriate. And this last poem I'm going to read is just it's from my new collection I've been working on, and I've been working on a series about interracial couples, and this one's called Meghan and Harry Moved to Vancouver Island. I know Horth Hill and its network of paths, rock shelves blank-faced like a person hard to trust. Framed by pines, the press snapped them visibly relaxed. A digital snow day of West Coast vibes and Gore-Tex silhouettes. It's early and misty and our socks bear a Fair Isle pattern. We go up Horth Hill, a Modonoc, guts of an ancient glacier. Stratums of rock and ice densely packed like cake layers. We move deer soft, thoughts polished to jade, musing why they've come, to vent, spill tea, shed drama, store mushroom trails and uphill spirals, to be lost, or to get lost, to climb above the shimmering cityscape, to reach the almost summit and view the after, before, the Gulf Islands simmering in fathoms of unhappiness or hope. And it's the sneak preview that makes us stand still, maybe kiss once, maybe look out. And if other hikers saw us from a distance, they'd wonder if we were rooted here, thoughts of that kind. So now we know this famous couple, they came, grew armor, turned into trees, and stayed. Thank you.
Thanks, Theresa. I'm very excited for your new collection. Sounds amazing. Next up, we've got Rowan McCabe, going to introduce himself and read us some poetry.
Hi everyone, my name is Rowan. I am here in
the thing is,
Newcastle upon Tyne. Oh, can you hear us all right? Yeah, cool. Yeah, so Theresa's poem made us want to do this one. Actually, I'm putting together a pamphlet at the minute, and this is the last poem. And that it's about a trip up Helvellyn, a mountain in the Lake District. It's a trip that me and my girlfriend did in summer of 2020, when like the restrictions were sort of eased a little bit, and it was lovely, like getting away for a bit. And it was part of a commission where I was doing some walks that Wordsworth used to do and writing poems about it. But it was really bizarre as well, because it was the busiest the Lake District had ever been in recorded history. This is not me exaggerating, it's just like statistical fact. There was more people there at that time than there ever had been before. So I wrote a poem about the trip up the mountain and that kind of like bizarre but also kind of wonderful experience. So it's called Helvellyn post-lockdown. I'm not sure what I was expecting. Seclusion, maybe. Away from the fear lingering round every corner of the city, but standing at the base, it's clear this mountain is busier than it's ever been in its 450 million year history. There is a queue for the top, an actual queue, an endless procession of waterproof zigzagging up the path, multicoloured ants twisting round the peak like sprinkles on a Mr. Whippy. It is packed. Christmas shopping packed. Not the relaxing experience I had planned, and I might as well chuck that OS map I rushed the millets for. It's going to be a veritable conga line to the top, and I know it's antisocial to say, but I wished I could have picked any other day. We'll find a place at the end of the queue, take cubic rock after rock in time, keeping distance from those in front, stopping to let over-keen climbers squeeze past, overtake with an awkward thanks, then carry on. We'll pass them on a boulder later, the same climbers, catching their breath. When we stop for water, the overtake were again soon, we'll find ourselves in a rhythm of overtaking. I notice the same faces, the stony couple on an eagle hunt, the older friends from Yorkshire cracking wise, all banter, the family with a spaniel who spent the entire ascent discussing the benefits of carbohydrates will pass each other again and again. It takes its toll. Near the top I spot a lady, her head in her legs, dripping sweat. This will not beat me, she wheezes. I will not let this beat me. And it doesn't. She follows just behind till we reach the summit. A 200-strong pilgrimage saluting the sky. Clouds float beneath feet. Ravens dance mid-air. We'll watch the microscopic veils, the puddle of Lake Thermia, and I'm suddenly aware of how small we are, all 200 of us, of how this place remains unchanged by any pandemic, unswayed by any recession, and if I was blown off the face of this mountain, the only thing left to prove that I existed would be people, would be these people. A man approaches. He's lost his OS map. He's unsure of the best way back. I don't feel scared about helping him anymore. In fact, right now, I don't feel scared of anything at all. Thanks.
Thanks, Rowan. That was great. Excited for your pamphlet too. When is it coming out?
It should be around February, I think. I'm sending off the final draft in December, and then I just leave it with someone from the National Trust who's going to mess about with it and decide what picture to stick on the front and stuff. So yeah, I'm thinking start next year, hopefully.
Great. Okay, and finally, we've got Boyega, who's going to introduce himself and read us a poem or two. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you kindly, Annie. My name's Boyega. I'm from East London. I'm going to read two poems. The first of which is called Diplomacy and is in my pamphlet, Auntie Uncle Poems. Diplomacy. Dad wants the head of the fish, but Uncle is eyeing it up and in a better position to get it. Dad has just learned from Uncle's son that what Uncle really wants is a bigger portion of rice. Mind, we won't know if it really is Uncle's son for another 2 to 4 weeks, but Dad, who can only assume it's Uncle's son, gives Auntie a look. Auntie, who is actually cousin, just much older, knows this look to mean if she can distract Uncle with what he really wants, then Dad can get what he wants and he can give Auntie what it is she really wants, which is for her daughter to stop giggling with Uncle. This being another uncle who actually isn't an uncle at all. Dad knows that this uncle would happily give up giggling with Auntie's daughter if someone could find him somewhere in the city that had good prices on necessities such as cow foot and ground crayfish. This uncle's been here 3 weeks, and other than the food at this gathering, can't say he has tasted anything like what he is used to. And the second poem is called A Potted History of Dhaka, Dhaka being an old-fashioned word for Dagenham, which is where I am from. A Potted History of Dhaka, defined as the direction to which this point lies, the point being where we are, here because we were obliged to leave somewhere else. Between the petrol station and the Greasy Spoon, the coach drops them off, side of the A13. Our father steps onto unlaid road, licks his finger to the wind, says yes. I don't have a map, but show me where the smog blows and I'll show you the direction to pray in. From the beginning, it was a gush of us and we came from all over. Life was a bowl of cherries, one room and it was tidy, kept the cardamom in the cupboard above the bagels. 6 pence I'd make on a good day, then war came. Took me and my brothers. The women built an estate for our ghosts. We manufactured Fords and drove them to the city gates, demanding to be let in. Back then it was simple. Sure, we weren't squeaky clean, but we were easy. Always punch up, we said. No point nicking some bloke's ped when the factory owner's balling in his 4-door, but then a sweet one makes you settle down a bit. Landlord gets the hump, so you find another room. Store the polenta next to the cassava flour. Get the jobs where you can. Someone's left their lamb leg in the pub again. This not where Eden is, not where the sun rises. Developers calling it Barcelona on Thames now. The council say Dagenham Leo is alive and well. It's cold as stale chips, but the ice cream van is still going off and we're laughing. We never unpacked. Been hoarding before it was popular. So far east, it's west to another man. You won't hear the bells ring from here. Still, we keep moving. We're almost back to where we left now. Cheers.
Thanks, Boyega. That was great. Thank you so much. I told you it wouldn't take long. So you're almost ready to, watch EastEnders or whatever comes on at 8. But thank you to all the poets who read tonight. And thank you so much for coming, especially, oh my God, especially to the podcast guests who, thank you for agreeing to be involved, even though I'm pretty sure when I asked you, or when you said yes, you had no idea what you were getting into. But I'm really happy that the 12 people that I found said yes. Couple more thank yous. I just want to say thanks to Jack Rental, I think, who was here, for putting in the hours and doing an amazing job of editing these podcasts. And thanks to Max Macken for doing the artwork, and Jansky for the music. I think you can all agree that it's quite catchy. Thanks to Creative Scotland. They're not here, but thanks for giving me the money to pay these poets and to make this. It's my first funded project, and I know it's not perfect, but it makes me happy listening to it. So I'm really glad that I did it. So yeah, thanks everyone who's listened so far. And thanks for coming tonight. I hope you heard something you liked.